I'm Matt McClure, and this is Currents. They came, they rode, they conquered the heat. Wounded warriors bike through the streets of the Baked Apple for an outstanding cause.
Especially when we hit the bridge, it was a little tough. But then I caught my second wind in the last couple miles. It was really good. You didn't even really mind the heat.
Plus, New York's same-sex marriage law takes effect Sunday. Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio goes into the deep to clear up some misconceptions about the church's stand.
We don't impose our will or our morals on society. We propose it. We give good reasons.
And these sisters let their sewing needles do the talking ahead of World Youth Day.
If they ask for our help, we have to help them. You know? God will help us to help them.
Well, good evening and thanks so much for joining us tonight. With this country entangled in its longest-running war in Afghanistan, soldiers still stationed in the dangerous combat zones of Iraq, and new involvement in the international push to overthrow Muammar Gaddafi in Libya, we're forced to ask ourselves, what exactly is the cost of war? Well, we could look at the cost to the nation to fund our military actions all over the globe, but there is another cost. It's the human cost that escapes the usual methods of calculation and is paid by the men and women who wear our country's uniform. Sometimes, they pay with their lives, and other times, well, they're forever changed by the wounds of war. And that's where the Wounded Warrior Project comes in. Since 2002, the project has been on a mission to honor and empower wounded warriors in a variety of ways, including its popular soldier rides. Yesterday, the Wounded Warriors braved the triple-digit heat and cycled through the streets of New York with some of our very own hometown heroes. And for the first time ever, the finish line was right here in the city of Churches.
Just want to thank the Wounded Warrior Project for ensuring that we never forget our heroes.
This event is called the Soldier Ride, and it's got wounded soldiers and firemen who ride from Manhattan into Brooklyn. It's both wounded soldiers and firemen are able to participate. And what we're here doing today is trying to raise money for anything the wounded soldiers need. My brother's a fireman. My father was a fireman who was killed on 9/11, and I'm currently in the Army. So we're all connected by 9/11. It started here in New York, and of course, a lot of firemen lost their lives. And they handed the ball over to the military to go ahead and fight the war on terrorism. And they feel like now it's a good way to give back. The fire department gives back by doing Wounded Warrior Project fundraisers.
The ride was extremely challenging, particularly for the hand cyclists who were much closer to the road. I was recording about 114 degrees of temperature right off of the roadway, so it was extremely hot.
The sun is very strong, a lot of humidity. But, they had drinks along the way. We stopped. Guys set up, hoses, wetting us down.
Just getting into your groove, especially when we hit the bridge. It was a little tough going. But then I caught my second wind, and the last couple miles were kind of a breeze. It was really good. You didn't even really mind the heat. There was a lot of stop and go, as we all wanted to stay together as a team, which is good. It's a team ride, and we'll stay together. So we started as a team, we finished as a team.
I don't think New York can do any better than it did. The turnout, the outpouring, the encouragement, and the support from the city and people who are just lining the roads.
They come out where you least expect them. We really don't expect anything at all from anybody, but people are always there helping us out, and it's overwhelming.
You couldn't help but want to make it to the finish.
This gives the people of Brooklyn a good chance to be able to cheer for them and to thank them.
We're really lucky that they helped us, so we're just trying to help back.
They fight for us day in and day out, and I want to devote my time today to them, especially close to home for me because my son is in Afghanistan.
We look for support in our own hometown for our guys that are alive and well, so this is just amazing.
I'm a Gold Star mom, so that means I lost my son in Iraq. This is my extended family. These are his brothers and his fellow comrades that he fought with.
I just came along for the ride, but it's nice to support them, and they deserve it.
I finished, I guess, fourth if you want to get technical.
Once the ride is over, we try to get them some cold drinks, some food, and we all hang out and get to talk to each other about different experiences.
You know, the military throughout the world are always putting their lives in the, on the front line in danger.
I mean, we know that everyone's rooting for us, but it's quite a different thing being over there as opposed to being here.
I want to thank both the soldiers and all the volunteers for all the hard work that they put into these events. The soldiers have sacrificed so much that it's the least the volunteers can do, and we're very proud of all they've done for our country.
Well, stay with us. The tragic loss of an 8-year-old boy in Brooklyn brings out the best in New Yorkers. We'll have that story and the rest of the day's headlines next. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure. Coming up later, just a stitch away, some Brooklyn nuns pitch in for World Youth Day. But first, let's have a look at the day's headlines. Well, the fund set up in memory of murdered Brooklyn boy Libby Kletsky raised more than $60,000 in one day. Kletsky's parents started the fund to benefit families and children going through personal difficulties. The 8-year-old boy, who comes from an Orthodox Jewish family, was murdered last week. The man charged in that case, Levi Aaron, led police to Kletsky's dismembered body parts, which were found in the man's freezer and in a dumpster. Well, in 60 days, the ban on openly homosexual service members serving in the United States military will be history. Today, new Pentagon Chief Leon Panetta and President Barack Obama have certified that repealing the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy will not hurt military readiness. The move fulfills a 2008 campaign promise of the president. Well, while same-sex couples here in New York get ready to marry this Sunday, the infamous Westboro Baptist Church is getting ready to protest. Westboro, which is not affiliated with any Baptist convention, is known for picketing the funeral services of service members. And they claim that those deaths are a chastisement from God for the U.S. accepting homosexuality. Westboro says it will protest outside marriage bureaus in Manhattan, also the Bronx, and in Brooklyn, as well as Governor Andrew Cuomo's local office and Gracie Mansion, where Mayor Michael Bloomberg will officiate at the wedding of 2 male members of his staff. On Capitol Hill, the back and forth over a budget agreement continues, with the Democrat-controlled Senate rejecting the Republican plan to cut spending and require a balanced budget amendment. The Senate voted 51 to 46 to set the measure aside. That measure, known as the cut, cap, and balance plan, rather. The legislation would have set new requirements for the debt ceiling, set limits on future spending, and started the process of ratifying a balanced budget amendment in the Constitution. The bill passed the House earlier this week. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid called taking up the proposal a waste of time, while House Speaker John Boehner said that the House had done its job. Well, the man accused of killing a priest in Mississippi is denying the charges against him. 31-year-old Jeremy Manieri appeared in court yesterday, where a judge set bond at $2 million for murder and $50,000 for grand larceny. Manieri is accused of shooting and killing Father Ed Everett and stealing his gun and car before fleeing to Florida. But Manieri's lawyer says there's more to the story, the lawyer claiming that his client did not know that Father Everett was a Catholic priest. Everett was a pastor at 2 Louisiana churches. Police discovered his body at a house in Mississippi. Well, leaders in China say the state-controlled Catholic Church there is considering ordaining 7 more bishops without the Vatican's approval. Last week, the Chinese church ordained a bishop without Holy See approval. That is the 3rd time that that's happened in the last 8 months. The Vatican confirmed that that bishop was automatically excommunicated. A new report from the Pew Research Center shows that a majority of Muslims in the Middle East do not believe the September 11th terrorist attacks were carried out by Arabs. Pew gathered responses from Muslims in several Middle Eastern countries. The highest rate was in Egypt, where 75% of respondents said they do not believe Arabs carried out the attacks. The report also showed that majorities of people in both the Muslim and Western worlds, though, believe that relations between the two regions are problematic. Well, could the Holy Land become a spiritual Disneyland? Well, the leader of Jerusalem's Catholic population thinks so. Speaking this week at a conference in London, the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem says the Christian presence in his country is threatened by virtual extinction, rather. Now, if his fears are realized, he says that the region would become akin to an amusement park with beautiful buildings, historic sites, and museums on display. Well, an effort to ban circumcisions in San Francisco may hit a roadblock if two state lawmakers have anything to say about it. They've introduced a bill to prohibit local governments from banning the procedure. San Franciscans will vote on the measure to ban circumcisions in their city in November. The Archbishop of San Francisco has also voiced his opposition to the measure. Well, turning now to next year's presidential race, GOP candidate Tim Pawlenty says that Jesus is one of his political heroes. During an appearance in Iowa, the former Minnesota governor was asked who his heroes are. According to a report from the Huffington Post, Pawlenty first spoke of his father before saying that he also has political heroes. He went on to name Winston Churchill, Ronald Reagan, Abraham Lincoln, and Jesus Christ. Well, a forthcoming book on the life of Pope Benedict will be released in September on the eve of Benedict's visit to his homeland of Germany. The book was written by none other than the Pope's brother, Monsignor Georg Ratzinger. In the book, the Monsignor details memories of his childhood together with the man who would one day be elected Pope, and that goes up until the 60th anniversary of the day the two brothers were ordained to the priesthood. And finally, we have a winner. Organizers of the I Confess contest today announced the winning video. The contest was a campaign to promote the act of confession and also Reconciliation Monday, which took place across New York State on April 18th of this year. Well, Get Clean, which was submitted by Melinda Collins, who's a sophomore at John Paul the Great Catholic University in San Diego, took the grand prize. Collins takes home a $25,000 educational scholarship, and we'll talk to her and the video's co-producer, George Simon, next week, right here on Currents. Well, stay with us. There is more Currents ahead. Coming up, Brooklyn's bishop says the Catholic Church is not anti-gay, it's pro-marriage.
I don't think there's any evidence to support that. Because we're against same-sex marriage doesn't mean we're against people who have homosexual orientations or even who practice homosexuality.
Welcome back. Well, in just a little over 48 hours, New York's historic Marriage Equality Act will take effect, making this the 6th and largest state in the nation to allow same-sex couples to marry. It was a hard-fought victory for Governor Andrew Cuomo that forced the state legislature to extend its session and senators to make hard choices that groups on both sides of the issue are determined to make them accountable for in upcoming elections. Well, now that the proverbial smoke has cleared from the bruising battles in Albany, what remains? In the aftermath of the law's passage, there are those who see defenders of traditional marriage as bigots, quite frankly, and the church as anti-gay. Well, rather than dwell on the past, Brooklyn Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio decided to go into the deep and look ahead to the future and also tackle the charges. Bishop DiMarzio, thanks so much for being here.
Good to be here again.
Well, of course, not all that long ago, the New York State Legislature passed a bill legalizing same-sex marriage in the state of New York. The church, obviously, and the Brooklyn Diocese especially took a stand, very strong stand against that legislation when it was proposed, as it was being debated, and after it was passed. During this debate, though, the kind of thing that we want to tackle right now is a lot of people on the other side of the issue have claimed that there is the Catholic Church is homophobic and is virulently anti-gay. What do you say to the criticism from the other side, people who would say that kind of thing about the Catholic Church?
Well, I don't think there's any evidence to support that. Because we're against same-sex marriage doesn't mean we're against people who have homosexual orientations or even who practice homosexuality. You know, that's something else. I mean, we're saying that same-sex marriage is not marriage, should not be called marriage. The state should not be involved in regulating affection between people. The state is involved in regulating marriage because of the results of marriage. That's people being born as citizens. The state is involved. They want to protect the innocent children if it's necessary for them to step in, or an innocent spouse. That's where the state's responsibility is. It's not responsible for arranging affection between two people. The civil effects of what they're saying all could be legislated properly. All the, some of these things that can't visit somebody in a hospital, all of these things could be done legislatively without trying to tamper with the definition of marriage. So we're not against anybody. We're just saying marriage is marriage, and it should be kept sacrosanct. It's an institution of thousands of years and what the state has been involved in regulating for a couple, quite a few centuries. But so we are saying that we should keep it the way it is.
Sure. And after the bill was passed, you made a plea to the priests of the diocese regarding state legislators. Explain to our viewers exactly what that plea was and how the priests have responded to it.
Basically, it was a protest for the system and the process by which this was adopted. There was very little debate, actually. There were no hearings. This was something done the 11th hour, the last week of the legislature, and the last day, at the last hour. This is of this proportion. This is passed with little debate and no understanding of the implications of this. It's basically a protest for what happened, and this applied to all the legislators, those who voted for it and those who voted against it. So we're saying, in protest, we're saying, stay away from us for a while. I'm not saying forever, but for a while, we're protesting the process you followed and adapting something that was so momentous with little consideration. And that's what we're saying. And we're just keeping them away from the platform that they might have in a parish, that they might want to give, some kind of honor, etc. They use the situations to promote themselves. So we're not letting them promote it, anyone, for or against the bill in our churches or schools at this particular time.
Sure. And in all of this debate surrounding this issue, are you concerned about the way that the church has been painted in this? And are you worried about possibly even people staying away or people who are now part of the Catholic Church going away from the Catholic Church over this issue?
Well, unfortunately, this can happen to anything. Once you take a moral stand, as we do with abortion, etc., it isn't that we have a choice on this. We can walk away from the fight. We have to pronounce what's true and what's right and as we understand it. The other issue is that we don't impose our will or our morals on society. We propose it. We give good reasons, not just religious reasons, but reasons from reason and natural law of why we believe things. And it's a democratic process, except in this case, I don't think the democratic process was followed. Legislators were really forced to vote for things they didn't want to vote for. It was a very strong political process behind the scenes that let this happen, and that's what we're protesting, a non-democratic process in the state.
Sure. And one more question here, Bishop. Borough President Marty Markowitz has said that he's going to open up Borough Hall for same-sex weddings. What is your thought about that?
Well, it's a political move, I'm sure, to gain favor, but that's his prerogative to do what he wants to do with Borough Hall. But Borough Hall belongs to the people of the county, the borough, and it's not his own situation. I think he ought to be a little more responsive to how most people feel about it. And I do say it's most people. The polls that were taken, show 60-40. I wonder how the questions are asked. I think also, the whole touting of this as to being an economic benefit to the city certainly does not take into consideration the feelings and the beliefs of many people in the city. I think it's just in your face in that area, so I think that's a mistake also.
All right, well, Bishop DiMarzio, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Stay with us, there is more Currents coming up. When we return, sisters are not doing it for themselves. They're doing this job for the youth of the church.
We saw it as a great way in order to give thanks and also to add our own gift for the World Youth Day.
And finally tonight, you don't have to buy a ticket to Spain to be able to be part of next month's upcoming World Youth Day in Madrid. There are a lot of ways you can pitch in and be a part of it all. You can pray for the pilgrims making their way from all over the world to convene at this, the mother of all Catholic young adult events. You can also donate to a group or to a kid maybe who's working to buy their ticket. They're very expensive, and you want to chip in and help them out. Or here's another way you can help out. You can decide to be just a stitch away from the action. Well, Just a Stitch Away is a campaign that was set in motion by World Youth Day organizers. And with a steady hand and plenty of spools of thread, thousands of people have volunteered their time and talent to sew sacred linens and liturgical vestments for the Great Convocation there. Now, a group of cloistered nuns in Brooklyn have ample talent, and they gave a year and a half of their time to stitch together these purple stoles that priests wear during confession. The Servants of the Lord and the Virgin of Matara sisters saw that task as a labor of love, really, for the youth of the Catholic Church. And tonight we bring you their story.
The idea and the excitement of the World Youth Day started with dressing the child Jesus for Christmas. Every year we dress the child Jesus as a distinctive outfit or on a different culture or from a different country each year, and pray for a specific intention.
For example, for the year for priests, we dress the child Jesus as a priest. This year is the World Youth Day, no? So we dress the child Jesus as a madrilenian.
We had written the World Youth Day organizers and came in contact with one of the religious sisters there who are helping to organize the events. And she sent us photos of a typical Spaniard dress.
We keep in touch with the organizers. They sent us an invitation to participate in the World Youth.
To provide and to sew the liturgical linens and vestments that the priests will use. And from there we proposed to not only our local superior but also our general superior of what she thought of the idea and if it was possible, if we were going to be able to offer something of this long list.
So the sisters asked me, I was still in Argentina, and they asked me if we can accept the offering. And I entered to the page and I get very excited also. I say yes.
If they ask for our help, we have to help them, no? God will help us to help them.
The sewing of liturgical elements or vestments and linens is a great part of our work and a way to participate also better in the liturgy and for the liturgy of the church. So we saw it as a great way in order to give thanks and also to add our own gift for the World Youth Day.
When we sew, when we pray at the same time, so it's the joy of doing God's will. Before I entered the monastery at Contemplative Life, I didn't sew, so this is all new to me. So it's at times it could be a bit tedious, but when we again focus on why we're doing it, you know, it's a grace for us to do it.
As contemplative sisters, we live a life so only for God in a very singular and unique way.
And the reason why we have agreed between us is that we belong totally to God, and this very physical separation makes a difference.
The reality of that separation is what makes us truly free to give ourselves only to God.
The more close we are to God, the better we help the people outside. No?
It's my life. It's everything. Like it is a grace of God to be called. And then you have to give your best because it's God who is asking you to be with Him.
It's so simple. Our life is so simple. It's centered in prayer. No? Our life is centered especially in the Eucharist. No?
It is fulfilling, and I think God willing, one day we'll be in heaven, and that's like where will be the ultimate joy. It's something that we always look forward to. It's to one day we have the hope of being with God forever. So right now it's like we're on a pilgrimage.
And I have to be faithful because He is faithful to me.
Talk about some dedication there, dedication to religious life and dedication to serving others as well, and doing all that work, getting in there with their hands and doing all that work for other people on a regular basis. Something we can definitely look up to the sisters for. Well, that is it for this edition of Currents, but that is not it for the great programming you've come to expect here on NET. Spending some much-needed one-on-one time with your AC tonight? Well, NET's got you covered. Join us and pop some popcorn. You can sit back, you can relax and watch indie films of faith on Faith Film Festival at 8 o'clock. But for you brave souls who intend to go outside and beat the heat, maybe in a movie theater, do not walk out the door until you have checked in with our esteemed movie critics on Real Faith at 8:30 p.m. Will the movie you want to see get a thumbs up or a thumbs down? A lot of them opening this weekend, and you'll have to watch to find out. Well, until next time, be sure and visit us online over at currentsny.net. You can go there to watch selected reports from the show and also full broadcasts. You can add us as your friend on Facebook, or you can follow us on Twitter. Our handle there is @CurrentsNY. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Matt McClure. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night and a great weekend, and also keep it cool, New York.